Okay, while this is curing, I can carefully measure out the, basically that frame I'm going to be putting here. So I'm going to start with this one that's in the back. I'm just going to put it right about here. I'm going to mark it on my rib here. And the reason I'm doing that is because the longer pieces are going to go down to that, down all the way down to meet the outer part of the other one. All right, so now I'll just take this longer piece, which is going to be right here, and I'm going to put it right there. Okay. That'll go like that. And I'll cut another one to match. Okay. Okay. That's probably going to be too long because I overcut it, but that's okay, so I want to sand it. Okay, so I've sanded this down, taken my time. So one thing I wanted to point out is that I'm not videoing all the sanding and shaping that I'm doing because it would take up a lot of time and no one probably wants to see all that anyhow. So just know that I do take my time, and when I get things to fit like this block, it's because I took a little bit off at a time, and and it takes a while to do that. So I'm not showing all that on the video, but just know that it does take a while to sort of sand things and get them to be in the right size and the right shape. And it's better to take a little bit at a time and work on it than try to take too much at once and then have to cut another piece. So that's my advice. So this guy's going to go just like that. Right back here. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put these outer pieces on. Now one thing you're going to notice is that these are straight, right, and long. And of course the airfoil, the rib, is curved. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put it like this. That. Kind of right about there. And then I'm going to come back and trim this piece of wood so that I could get it to match the curvature of the rib. So it's kind of overbuilding it a little bit and then cutting it back. So something like right about there. Just like that. All right, and do the same thing on this side. Okay, now for this piece here. This one will actually be flush with the rib, like that. Use my hand. All right. Oops, boy. Flip it over. All right, so let's go ahead and see how this fits. Pop it in here. Like that. Okay. So, a couple things. One of them is I'm going to have to sand sand this plate down a little bit, make it a little bit narrower, because the covering is going to go over into here, and also there's going to be covering on the plate itself. So I have to account for that sort of thickness of the covering. So I am going to go ahead and sand this down probably a little bit more, just to give me a little bit more room so I can kind of fit it in there nicely once it's covered. The other thing is, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and trim this and kind of shape these blocks to match the airfoil curvature. Now I can just leave, this plate as is, but you'll notice there's a little lip on both sides. Oh, hit my camera there. But you'll notice there's a little lip on the inside, right inside here, because again, this is flat, so it's basically straight going back to here, and then you have the rib is curved. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little bit of balsa flat sheeting. I'm going to put it over here on top of this, and then I'm going to sand the whole thing and get it all to match and have it curved correctly. Okay, so I think this is about a 1/16 of an inch sheeting that I have, and I think I can just fit it like right here. And then what I'll do is, obviously, I'll just kind of sand it and shape it to blend it in, and that'll work fine. All right, let me pop this out of here, and I'm going to go over my red lines. I'll have to draw my lines again, but that's okay. So I'm just going to go, basically just going to cut this to match. Okay, oops. There we go. All right, I'll just use my Tight Bond wood glue for this. I'm just going to put some in the middle, not too much in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and smear it on here. Probably a little bit too much. That, and then I'm going to go ahead and tack it on with a CA after this. So go just like this. Comes out of here fast. All right, let this cure up for a little bit, and then come back and we can start shaping this area right here. All right, so this is good. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in here, back in here like this. And now I'm gonna go ahead and shape this. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim these rails, and I'm gonna sand the balsa here to match the airfoil curvature, and it'll be good to go. Then the next step will be to go ahead and cut the slot for the servo, and then put the holes in for the mounting. All right, so that's about it for that. I think I got it close. And the next step, I'd probably do a little bit more sanding here and there, but overall I think it's pretty good. The next step is I'm going to go ahead and put so the servo is going to be in like this, and I need to put the slot for the servo arm. So let me pop this guy out of here, and the servo is going to go right here like this, like that. And I'm going to mark it. Let me see, give me something to mark it with. And I'm just going to go ahead and just going to eyeball it. Put it right here, and probably about that far down. Just give it some room for the clevis. I mean, it's not going to go underneath here anyhow, but we'll make it. And this is an old servo. I don't use this servo on a plane. This servo was in a crash, I think. So it's just a dummy servo. All right, so that'll be my kind of my limits of my slot. I'll just kind of sketch that on there. I'm gonna go ahead and cut this, draw it on a little bit better, but then I'll cut it out. And let me see here. Again, these are just kind of almost arbitrary. That's about a 1/4 inch or so. Okay, so I'll just cut that little slot out. I think I'll use my roto tool for this. Alright, so this guy will go like that. Here. It's got the room I need. It's not going to go below there. Okay. Alright, let's go ahead and sand this off a little bit. Just like that there. Cool. And we'll do a little bit of a test run here. Well, so I guess I'll just do it from the bottom here. All right. It'll be just like that. Okay, so the next step will be to just go ahead and put the screws in. Go ahead and mark my lines back on that I covered up with my little piece of balsa sheeting. Probably don't really need to do this, but it's a good way to kind of keep track of where I am. Okay. Now let's go ahead and measure. So actually this is 3/8 of an inch. This is 3/8 of an inch, so I'm going to just go in here 3/16. Just to be 1, 2, 3 right in the middle. 2, 3. There. All right, right about there's my center line. I'll do about a 1/4 inch in. From the edge. Just puts me right about here. There. Okay, those will be the locations for the mounting holes. All right, so I'm going to try with these. These are number 2, 1/2 inch long, just using wood screws. And I think these are going to be fine. I have a size up from that, but I don't want to go too big. So I'm going to try these out and kind of see how they work. I can always go bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and use a pin vise, and I'm going to drill it out. Probably going to get something like this smaller drill bit to act like a pilot for it, and we'll do that. Get this out of the way. Okay, I'm just going to tape this down to kind of keep it. There's a little bit of play in that because I made it a little bit smaller, like I said, because of the covering material. So I just want to kind of keep it in one spot here. Now, I could use my roto tool, the Proxxon, for this, but you know, you have more control like this. This is not going to be a very difficult hole to drill, at least I hope not. It's going to go right here. This will be the first one. Okay. Okay, so the next step is I'm not going to screw the threads through the plate. I'm just going to put the screw through that. So I'm going to go ahead and take one of these out of here. That I'm going to drill out and make it bigger. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and drill these out with a bigger diameter drill bit. All right, so I have this in here, and I want to make sure that I don't crack the rail, the mounting rail in there. And I think they're going to be okay. I just got to take my time. Worst case scenario is I would put some CA on it, but so I'm going to go ahead and drive these in and then back them out, and then put CA in there to kind of strengthen the threads, and then I'll put them back in. Okay, there we go. And then the servo, where's our buddy, the servo, pop right in here. That. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and back these out, and I'll put some CA in there in the threads to help strengthen them. All right, a quick drop of CA. I'm not wearing my gloves, but I'll go real quick here. Just put a couple drops in that hole. Oops, there. So it really comes out fast. Good, that should strengthen up those holes. Okay, so this is pretty much finished. I may spend a little bit of time kind of sanding a little bit here and there, but I think it looks good. It was kind of a long video. There are a lot of steps doing this. And again, I made a little bit of modification, obviously. And let me see if I can get the servo to go in here. Pop it in there like that. There we go. So there's a servo is going to be sitting in like that. Kind of flip it over, take a look on the inside. It's not too fancy and it's not too pretty, but I don't think it'll work great. The wire obviously will go through the holes into the fuselage. That's it for the major part of the wing construction. I am going to do this on the other side in a second. I'm just not going to do it on camera because I think we've seen plenty of that. And the next video, I'm going to start building the fuselage. So until then, thanks for watching my channel, and we'll see you next time.